Welcome. In this video, we will show how a trading partner setup can be created, as well as how you can define an inbound or an outbound relationship for that trading partner. So specifically, the next thing that we will do is we'll go to Develop. And as part of the Develop section, you will notice there's a Projects menu item. So we'll click on that, and we'll create a new project. And suppose our project is related to HIPAA claims, and to translate any incoming HIPAA 837s into a database target. So the idea is that you will get a HIPAA claims file from your clients, and you want to convert them into a database output as part of your translation. So the first thing we do is we create a project, and the next thing that we will do is we'll go to Solutions, and we'll go to B2B, and this is where the B2B trading partner setup is located. And before we go into relationships, we'll first go into trading partner, and we will set up our trading partner profile. So here we will click on Create New, and in this particular screen we will set up our trading partner name. So let's suppose there's a client, Aetna, and they're going to send you a claims data file. So this would be patient claims data file, and this will be your EDI files. And then here we will simply select our project that this particular trading partner belongs to, so that we can group all of the related activities in terms of relationships and the trading partners as part of this project. So this is where we can select our project that we created earlier. And then as part of the EDI configuration, we can go into the partner ID and host ID and define who's going to send us the this particular claims file, as well as what is the receiver ID in terms of the host ID that we see here in this field. So to get this information, you may already have a data file, as we can see here. And let's just open this up in TextPad, and we can grab the sender ID from the GS segment. And here we will simply go back to our screen and copy paste that partner ID. Similarly, we will do the same task for extracting out the host ID, which is the receiver ID in our case, and define that here. You can also provide contact information in terms of who's going to receive this email, in terms of any acknowledgments that we need to send out. So this contact information is very important as part of your setup, and you can define that later as well. So this is information that you can set up later on as part of your email contact. And this email will be used to send out notifications, acknowledgments, and you can learn more about it as part of your EDI user guide. So here we will simply provide the partner ID and host ID, and we will click on Save. So in this case, we have created a trading partner. And before we start creating our relationship, there are several prerequisites that you need to build as part of your EDI setup. In this case, for the EDI 837s. So the first thing that we do is we go to Services, and we select Schema. And as part of the schema, we select EDI. And here we define our EDI 837 schema. So here what I did is I gave a name, description, and from the data dictionary that you select from the drop down here, you can click on Select Transaction, select the 837 in this case for version 4010. And once you select that transaction from the data dictionary, it will show up in the segment definition panel here, and then you click on Save. So this is where you can first create your schema definition of your 837 for version 4010. If you have different versions, then Adeptia will provide different data dictionaries belonging to those different versions as part of your data dictionary list. So that's the first thing that we do as part of the prerequisite is we create a schema definition for your EDI 837. Similarly, what we will do is we'll go to Services, and we will define the schema definition of our target, and that happens to be a database. So what we will do is we'll create new, and we will give a name to this. So here this will be your common EDI 837 schema, and this will be your database schema. So you can give a qualifier that relates to what type of schema this is for. And here we will give a description DB schema for storing EDI 837 data. And the next thing that we will do is we'll select a connection to the database where these tables exist. And you can look into the services and connector and create a database connection. And once you create that connection, it will show up here. So make sure that you have this connection already created before you get to the screen. Once you have that connection created, you will see that connection here in this drop down, and you can simply select that from this particular list here. And now the next thing that we will do is we will click on the Add Root table. What this does is that we will select our claims table, as we are doing here, and we will click on Get Columns. So you will notice that there are several tables that are part of this database structure, and those tables are claim, pair, physician detail, service line, submitter, subscriber, transaction header, etc. And what we are doing is we are simply selecting those columns as part of the schema that we will be using to store data on the target database. So here we are selecting claim, and we will click on Generate Query, and we will click on OK. The next thing that we will do is we will select our pair table. This is where all the pair information goes in, and we will select all the fields. So we will basically select everything by clicking on the Select All checkbox, click on Generate Query, click OK. So similarly, we will click on Add Root Table, click on Browse Table, and we will select the physician detail, click on Get Columns, select All, and Generate Query, and click OK. And then the last thing that we will do is we'll select our final table. So you can basically go through each and every table, select them as part of this root table setup. You can also make these tables as part of child tables to the parent table. So it really depends on what type of hierarchy you need to define here. And you can do that through that screen. And then let's suppose we want to select the subscriber information, and that information are all these fields here, and then we will click on Generate Query and OK. So depending upon how many tables you want to select as part of your data load, you can go through that list and select each one of those tables. The other thing that you can also do is you can indent these tables as part of the child table setup below the parent table, so you can build that parent-child relationship. And for that, you also need to define your primary keys so that there's a foreign key primary key relationship between the tables. So again, look at the user guide to get more information in terms of how to use this particular screen to set up your hierarchical definition. In this case, everything is in the root list, as you can see here. So here we will click on the advanced properties, and we will set up the this particular activity as part of our project, which is HIPAA claims, and we will click on Save. So now our database schema has been created, and we will also select our target from this list as well, and we will define our target. So what we did is we defined the schema. In this case, we will define our common EDI 837 target DB, and this is the target database to store EDI data. And here we will select our claims database connection that you would have created earlier as part of your database connector, and then the schema name that we just created in our previous step. And here you can define whether you want an insert or update. So depending upon whether you have defined your primary keys as part of your database schema, you can also select update or insert update as part of your selection here. So in this case, we are simply dumping the data into the tables. So we'll simply click on insert, and here we'll click on save. So this particular database, as we have just created, we can also associate this database connection to our project, which is HIPAA claims. So now the next thing that we would do is we will also define our events, meaning what's the location where we need to go in and look for these HIPAA files that are coming in from your clients. And in this particular case, your event types could vary depending upon how your clients are sending these files. Clients may be dropping a file in a shared folder somewhere within your local area network or within your intranet. Clients may be sending a file to your FTP, SFTP, or FTPS location. So this is where you can select FTP option here. They may be sending you as part of a message queue, so you can use a JMS for that case to pick up data as part of your message arrival in a queue or a topic. And then the next thing that could be also be selected is the mail, where you can also receive an email attachment with your EDI 837 data file. And then there's a option for web service as well. So the different options where you can create your own particular event to handle that inbound file from that client. So in this case, we will select File, and we will click on Create New. And here we will define our Aetna trigger. So this is our client trigger to look for EDI 837 files. And then here we can choose either on file created. So the idea of this trigger is going to look for any new file that arrives. If you choose file exists, so the idea would be that the application will go and look into the folder, and if the file already exists, then it's going to kick off the translation right away. Or if an existing file exists and has been modified, then it will kick off this translation. So there are different options you can choose. So for our testing purposes, we will select on file exists, but for your production scenarios, you will change it to on file created so that it's looking for any new files and not any existing files in the folder. So here for our testing purposes, we will select on file exists, and then we can simply put in any wildcards, and you can have multiple wildcards, comma separated, and this would be the location that we can go and look for the file. So this location that I'm putting in should be accessible by the Adeptia instance wherever it's running. So it could be an absolute path to a shared folder, or it could be a local path, as you see here. Really depends on where Adeptia is and how it can access this folder. The next thing that we will do is we will say that it's not a secure folder, so we will uncheck the secure box. And then the polling frequency, let's say, is 5 minutes. So we're going to check for this file, whether it exists in the folder or not, every 5 minutes. And then let's also associate this trigger to this particular project. So this is our HIPAA claims project. So we have defined the source schema as well as the target schema and the target. We have also defined the events. And now the next thing that we will do is we will go in the data transformation and we will click on data mapping. In the data mapping, we will click on Create New. And here we will define our mapping name as we are doing here. And provide a description and click on Data Mapper button. Once the mapper opens up, as we see here, we can click on this folder open icon that you see here on the left-hand side at the top and corner. and we would select EDI, and our incoming is source EDI 37, so we will check the source checkbox here as we are showing you in this particular screen. And then the next thing that we will do is we will click on the advanced database, and we will select this schema as our target, and we will click on load, this check mark icon here. And now once the schema is loaded, as you can see here, the target tables that we want to load this data into will show up on the right hand side, and the EDI 37 will show up on the left hand side of the source schema panel. And now we can also attach our data file into this schema so that we can do our validation as we apply our mapping rules. So here we'll go to data, and I have this file here, and we can simply click on preview and see the data in a few seconds. So now once we see the data on the bottom left hand corner, we can also open it up in a larger window, and you will notice that all these different loops and all the information belonging to under those loops are. So in this example, we will map the pair information to this table here, which is the pair table, and this is where the insurance company information will go. So in this case, we will select the loop 3 NM1, and if you open up the data sample in the preview, you will notice that the loop 3 NM1, where the NM101 is equal to PR, then this is where all the pair information exists in terms of the insurance company data. So for this particular case, we will select the NM101. So here we will go to pair, we'll go to node, and in the properties we will double click on the loop 3 loop 3 underscore NM1, and then we will further qualify this for each condition. So after you double click on the loop 3 NM1 in this for each panel, we will click on the NM101, and then if this is equal to PR, then this means that this is the pair information that we need to gather as part of the source data and map it to this pair. So only the loop 3 NM1 that belongs to the PR data, the pair data, needs to go into this pair table. So we'll first save this for each. So as there are different loops in the EDI file, you need to only pick up that particular loop that qualifies for that target, and in this case we're only looking for the pair information as part of those loops. So this is what the for each condition will apply. So we will select loop 3 underscore NM1, and then we will put a predicate as part of your square brackets, and then within those square brackets we'll say NM101 equals PR in single quotes, and then we'll click on Save Properties. So now we can simply map the information here. So pair name goes here. We can also select other fields. We can go into the other data. So here we can go into the address and select that address information and map it to the pair address. The pair city needs to go here. Pair state needs to go here. The postal code value needs to go into this table. And then the interchange control number can also be gathered from the ISA segment. And you can specify this here so that there's a link between the header as well as this detail table. So we can get the interchange control number from the ISA and map it here. And then you can also validate the data. Once you have applied these rules, you can go to Data Viewer, and you can click on the Refresh Target Output button here on the bottom right-hand corner, and you will notice that all the pairs that we have selected from the source will show up as part of this output. So here there are several pairs that we have taken out as part of the source data. And we can open this up in a larger window, and you will notice that whatever fields we have mapped from the source data from that particular loop shows up here as part of the output. So this is where we can look at the output data that will be sent to the database table, in this case the pair table. Similarly, you will do the rest of the maps for the other tables for claim, physician details, subscriber, and any other tables that you may have selected as part of your database schema. So once you have created this map, click on Save, and you're done with the mapping activity. Now, the final thing that we have to do is set up the relationship. So after you have created all these prerequisites in terms of the schemas, the target, as well as the event, then we go into Solutions, we'll go to B2B, and we'll set up our relationship. Once you are in the relationship page, you will notice that the trading partner shows up here on the left-hand side that we had created earlier. And then we can also see there are different relationships that we can define for this trading partner. Inbound relationship, the outbound relationship. And for the outbound relationship, we can also predefine the ISA segment that we can use as part of the output mapping. So this can also be used to predefine your envelope or the header data for your outbound EDI files that you may be sending. So for this example, we will define an inbound relationship, and we'll click on Create New. And as part of this Create New screen, you will notice that there are three different options. We can create the EDI XML, which we will do as part of this example. We can also define the inbound as part of EDIFACT file that may be coming in, or any non-EDI file like CSV, XML, Excel, flat file. So any non-EDI file can also be captured as part of this inbound relationship. So in this case, we will select EDI XML. We will click Next. And here we will give a name. And this will be your Aetna HIPAA 837 inbound. And this is your inbound definition for this particular client. And the EDI standard is X12, and then the particular version is 4010. And if you have other versions that you need to use, Adeptia will provide those versions, and those will show up as part of this list. The next thing that we will do is we'll select the transaction set code, which is the 837 from this list. So you'll notice there are a lot of these message types that we can select, and the one that we need is the 837. The next thing that we would do is we will select the test production indicator. So whether the incoming file is a production file, which is the case, so we'll select production. And here we can define whether we want to send out acknowledgments to the client after we translate the data. So in this case, we can select do not send or send with error or without errors. So here we will say do not send any acknowledgments. The skip compliance check is important in cases where you want to still accept their data file, even if it's not fully compliant to the 4010 EDI 837 standards. And here we can select our project. So far, we have just defined what type of inbound relationship it is. And now once we go to the translation properties, this is where we can define the properties related to how to translate this data. And this is where we will select those prerequisite activities that we created earlier. So the first thing that we would select is what is the file event or any other event that we will use to pick up the files. In this case, we created a file event earlier, and we will select that particular file event here as part of the drop-down selection. The next thing that we would do is we'll select our mapping that we also created earlier as part of our mapping exercise. And then the target is going to be the database target that we created earlier as part of our database target definition. And we will simply select that here in this drop-down. And this is all there is to it in terms of creating the inbound relationship. And you will notice that there are two more translations that you can do in parallel. So if you want to send data to multiple different targets as part of this one-time translation, then you can define those additional translations here as part of this screen. And again, these are optional. You don't have to do that if you don't need to do that. So here we will click on Save, and our inbound relationship has been created. Once you have defined your inbound relationship, as we can see here for this particular trading partner, we can go to Events, we can go to File, and then from the File Trigger repository, we can go to the Action column of that trigger, and we can click on Trigger Now. This is an easy and fastest way of testing your inbound relationship. Event, you can go to Monitor and History, and then B2B Logs. And as part of the B2B Logs, you would see any inbound message that arrives, the status of that particular inbound translation, whether it failed for a particular reason or it got translated successfully. All of that information will show up as part of the B2B logs, as we can see here. So in this case, there were two messages that arrived. One failed because there was some problem with the inbound relationship data that did not match with the actual data file. So it will tell you what that error is as part of this error description here. And if everything was translated successfully, which is the first top record here, in this case, we received a file from the client here, and this was the receiver ID, the sender ID. The status is translated, meaning everything was translated properly. There was no error message. And then this is the actual data file that we received in that case. And this is the time when this translation occurred. On the left-hand side, at the bottom part of the screen here, you can also open up messages and see what those inbound messages were as part of your data. So here, there were 5 transactions that came in the file that got translated successfully. It will also give you the status of those translations. So this is more from a message level or the transaction level logs. So the first one was related to the interchange in terms of there was a message that arrived. And in this case, what we're doing is we're looking at it from a transactional level. So what were in those files and whether they were properly processed or not. So in this case, there were 5 transactions that came in from that one file. And this is the control number that you can see here, the transaction type. And you can also look at the transaction set data in regards to the actual raw data that came in as part of the file. So again, the logs is pretty robust in terms of all the information you would need to know as part of your day-to-day inbound and outbound data that you may be receiving and sending back to the trading partner. To learn more about the EDI trading partner setup, please refer to our EDI user guide. And also, if you have any questions, please contact us at sales@adeptia.com. This concludes the video. Thank you and goodbye.